Welcome to Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance in West Los Angeles. Today we are joined by Jim Clarke. He is the mayor of beautiful Culver City, California. We're literally just outside of Culver City, just barely outside.
Right, but we consider you sort of
exactly
residents in a way.
Part of the family.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the future of Culver City. It really has, I mean, it's come into its own, no question about it.
Thank you.
But you and your council members got together and engaged in a strategic planning retreat. How are you able to do that, given that there's something called the Brown Act,
Right.
which prevents you from speaking to more than one council member outside of public view?
Correct, and that's the problem too, is that we really don't have an opportunity to engage with each other. And if you do it at a public meeting, there's so many things on the agenda that you only get a few minutes to discuss any topic. So what we wanted to do was, we called a special meeting of the City Council.
Oh.
It was a publicly announced meeting. We held it at the Kirk Douglas Theater,
Of course. Right.
at a place that was, was more conducive to a conversation. We spent, and the public was invited. I think there were 3 or 4 people that showed up.
Okay.
And there was an opportunity, if they wanted to speak at the beginning of the meeting. But it was really all about the council members themselves having a dialogue with each other that we never get an opportunity to do as a group.
And literally you spent the entire day brainstorming, discussing, spitballing, whatever
Right.
words you want
Right.
to use.
Right. We had brought in a professional facilitator to
I
help
see.
with that from the Center for Nonprofit Management. And we wanted to accomplish 2 goals. One, we wanted to say, what is it that Culver City should become over the next 5 years? So a long-range goal. And then what are the kinds of topics that we want to talk about with the community in community town hall meetings
Right.
over the next 2 years?
And let's talk about that, because you're on the verge of looking at a new general plan, is that right?
That's right. We've had a general plan that, there's several components to a general plan. Some of them are decades old and others are more or less current. But that's a major undertaking for a city, but we need to do that. And the good part of it, it'll be a lengthy process, but it'll also involve a tremendous amount of community involvement. So the community will be involved over, say, the next 2 years. We'll probably start probably around the first of the year on this process. And it'll be about a 2-year process in determining what we want the city to become in all kinds of ways, not only just on development,
Right.
but in traffic and in housing and everything else.
So let's talk about your desire to engage your community. Look, Culver City is big enough but small enough where that engagement is possible. How many
Correct.
residents?
40,000.
Okay, so you could have a conversation.
Yes.
But I still think that there's a bit of reticence by some to get involved for a variety of reasons.
Right.
Including they don't want to subject themselves to hostility, they don't want to subject themselves to politics. Talk to me about how during this meeting you tried to weigh the desire for involvement and creating an environment where it's welcoming to become involved.
Right, and that's one of our goals that we came out of this, was that we wanted to increase civic engagement, and that's in several ways. That's not only civic engagement by people participating in our council meetings,
Right.
and a lot of that is, we have meetings in the evening, young families not able to necessarily
But
attend.
let's talk about those council meetings, because
Yeah.
I got to tell you, sir, I have seen some council meetings, and I'm not going to point to Culver City specifically, but when the public does get involved in council meetings, it can often be just brutal. The vitriol that is spewing during
I think you're
public
confusing
comments.
us with Los Angeles.
Well, but I'm sure it's happened.
Yeah, it does happen.
And so the question becomes, and I think that's part of the reason why folks are really afraid to get involved.
Yeah.
They don't want to subject themselves to this craziness. And again, like you said, it's not all the time. And look,
Right.
we have a great democratic system in California and America, but how do you create a safe, welcoming environment?
Well, I think there's other ways too, and we're looking at the city's hiring some consultants to advise us on use of social media in a better way, so that people don't have to physically necessarily come down in order to participate in a dialogue. So that's one of the things that we're doing. But we're also concerned about just volunteerism in general. We've sort of noticed a decline. Our service clubs in Culver City are declining in their memberships. They're a lot older and they look a lot like me, and we're trying to, we've already started reaching out to our high school students and talking to them about what interests you and what motivates you to become interested in public service or volunteerism. And the last thing that we want to talk about is voting turnout. I mean, even though we're a small city, when it comes, and these issues are very important to people, school board elections and city council elections and those things, we get a turnout that's like 20%.
Well, that's good for some localities.
It is, but it's, again, we would like to increase it. So how do we do that? What ways do we do that?
And I think part of the way to do that is to convince folks that it matters and that they're participating in a process that's inclusive, that's compassionate. And I know that one of your goals was to look at creating that kind of kind, compassionate environment civically.
Correct.
That sounds a little woo-woo and West Coast, but look, there's something to be said for kindness and compassion in the civic process.
Well, yeah, and it extends just beyond that. It's more than just being, the police officer being friendly to somebody when they're writing them a ticket or whatever. It's also about businesses and their relationships and making people feel welcome in a community. We have a lot of diversity within Culver City. We have a lot of foreign, immigrants who have come here and whatever. Are we welcoming to those people, or do we all just sort of congregate in our tribes?
I recently had the honor of covering the National Association of Counties convention. It happened to have been in Long Beach, and I interviewed the new chair of the organization. He happens to be from a county in Tallahassee, Florida, and he was telling me that he's part of this kind of coalition to create kindness and compassion. And that the way that they try to do that is at every turn, what they acknowledge is you can have your own opinions, but you can't have your own facts. The facts are the facts. And so while you may come at something from different angles, just let's try to look at the facts as they are objectively, and then we'll have a discussion.
Right.
Well, what's your sense of that?
Well, I think it is. And I think we are fortunate in Culver City, in part because people know each other to a degree and they live with each other, so that it's not so much that you point at those people or them or whatever, it's us, and so people feel a part of it. But from time to time you need to be able to remind people that we're all part of one community and we're all trying to improve the quality of life for people here.
It's hard to deny that Culver City has benefited immensely from the Expo line.
Yes.
I mean, talk about a transformative piece of machinery. I was at the grand opening. I'm that dork who came to the grand opening, although I shouldn't say that. It's volunteerism at its best. But it really is transformative. But with this transformation comes congestion. And I go to your downtown all the time, and it's hard to find parking. And so I know you're looking at these issues.
We are.
No criticism, by the way.
One of our goals is to be able to increase the alternative modes of transportation by 2 to 4%. But here's an interesting statistic for you, and I haven't had anybody refute it. 80% of all the traffic that comes through Culver City are from people that neither live nor work in Culver City.
Meaning they're going through.
They use it as a cut-through. Rather than go up on the 10 freeway and then come down on the 405, you look on a map, if you just cut it right across through Culver City. So that's a problem, that the development that's occurring around us, whether it be Playa Vista or Los Angeles or whatever, is adding to that we're not even responsible for. So we think that with our development, and we're looking at things like now when we look at a development, how does it impact not only just that particular development, but how does it impact the surrounding areas?
It's perfect year to do this. It's your 100th anniversary.
It is, and
we
we're very
congratulate
excited about it. Thank you.
His name is Jim Clarke. He is the mayor of beautiful Culver City, California, whose best days apparently are yet to come, although it's been a good decade so far.
It is.
My name is Brad Pomerance. We're coming to you from West Los Angeles. You're watching Local Edition.